Iron Man is one of the most iconic superheroes in Marvel's history. But what happens when the character is passed on to a new hero? Today, we're diving into the difference between Iron Man and Ironheart, breaking down why Iron Man works so well and why Ironheart just doesn't hit the same mark. Iron Man, aka Tony Stark, is a billionaire genius with a personality as sharp as his suits. From the moment Robert Downey Jr. took on the role in the MCU, Tony Stark became an instantly recognizable character. Why did it work so well? For one, Tony Stark's arrogance made him relatable in a weird way. He was flawed, human, and yet somehow a superhero. What made Iron Man stand out in the MCU was his character depth. He wasn't just a tech genius in a suit. He was a deeply troubled individual dealing with guilt, loss, and the consequences of his own actions. This complexity is what made him so compelling, and audiences got to witness his emotional evolution. His relationships with characters like Pepper Potts, Steve Rogers, and even his relationship with his own identity as Iron Man added layers to his story. His arc was also extremely well crafted, showing a transformation from a self-centered billionaire to someone who sacrifices everything for the greater good. Then there's the suit. Iron Man's suit wasn't just a piece of advanced technology. It was a symbol of Tony's intelligence, his personality, and his constant drive for improvement. The ever-evolving designs made each appearance fresh, and the suit became an extension of Tony's character. Versatile, evolving, and more than just a weapon. Now let's talk about Ironheart. Riri Williams is a brilliant inventor just like Tony Stark, and she's also built her own suit of armor. But there's something that just doesn't resonate with audiences the way Iron Man does. Why is that? First, Riri Williams doesn't have the same compelling backstory or personal stakes that Tony Stark had. While she's a great inventor, her character feels less developed in comparison to Iron Man's decades-long character arc. The emotional depth that Tony carried with him, his personal struggles, his flaws, was a major reason people invested in him. With Riri, it feels like her character was more of a plot device, and without that emotional weight, it's harder for the audience to care. Another issue with Ironheart is the suit. Unlike Iron Man's suits, which felt like they represented Tony's personality and ingenuity, Riri's suit feels more like a generic upgrade. It lacks the distinctive character that Tony's suits had, and because the designs are more derivative, they don't have the same visual impact. One of the biggest issues with Ironheart's character is how rushed her introduction felt, especially in comparison to Iron Man's slow burn of development. Tony Stark's journey wasn't just a couple of movie appearances. It spanned over multiple films, slowly building up his character, relationships, and motivations. By contrast, Riri Williams was introduced in a single film, with little backstory and no real time to let her grow as a character. While we know Riri's a genius, we don't really know who she is outside of that. She didn't get the chance to become relatable, which is something that Iron Man did effortlessly. What Iron Man's story did so well was give fans a clear reason to care about Tony Stark, even if his methods were sometimes questionable. His vulnerabilities made him human, and his evolution as a character felt earned. In comparison, Riri Williams has not yet had the opportunity to develop that level of depth, which makes her feel like a placeholder instead of a full-fledged hero in her own right. Ironheart's character can be great, and Riri Williams has potential, but she feels more like a shadow of Tony Stark rather than a fully realized character. The problem is, she's trying to fill shoes that are too big, and without the depth and uniqueness that Tony Stark brought to the role of Iron Man, Ironheart falls short. Another factor that contributes to the disconnection fans feel with Ironheart is the absence of stakes in her story. Tony Stark's entire arc was built around him coming face to face with the consequences of his past actions. From his dealings with weapons manufacturing to his struggle with his own mortality, Iron Man was constantly evolving, reacting, and facing challenges that were both personal and external. Riri, on the other hand, has yet to be put into situations that force her to confront her past or push her to make those hard decisions that could shape her into a hero in the same way. In the end, Iron Man worked because of Tony Stark's personal journey, his complexity, and the legacy he built over the years. Ironheart, while promising, still has a long way to go to stand on her own. It's not that Riri Williams doesn't have the potential, but she needs more depth, more connection, and something that makes her stand out just like Tony did. It's also important to consider how important Tony Stark was in terms of the MCU's overall story. He was the foundation of the entire Infinity Saga. He was the one who started it all, the hero who inspired a universe of other heroes, and even the one who ultimately sacrificed himself to save the universe. That kind of legacy is hard to live up to. When you introduce a new character like Riri, it's easy to feel like she's just filling a gap that was left after Tony's departure instead of truly forging her own legacy. Iron Man will always be remembered for what he brought to the MCU, and Ironheart will need time to find her own identity if she ever wants to live up to the legacy of Iron Man. It's not a matter of her not being a good character, but more about the massive shadow cast by Tony Stark's journey and the monumental task of trying to fill it. Perhaps in the future, with the right development and story arcs, Ironheart will be able to carve out her own place in the MCU. But until then, it feels like she's still trying to figure out what kind of hero she truly wants to be. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe.